Hi all. Today we're going to talk about a topic which is with regards to security in process automation and how it plays an important role. And the topic today is don't let manual deployment of your bot codes put your security at risk. Now, looking at this particular topic, let's look at what does automation code deployment look like, and a background would be like this code deployment is quite critical and highly anticipated step for any COE or standalone automation team. Because if that's completed, it almost marks the completion of a project. However, when manual deployment of bot codes happens, it introduces a risk of multiple errors, but also significantly introduces security vulnerabilities. The manual processes may lead to misconfigured permissions, exposure of sensitive data, or insecure handling of credentials, making the system more prone to breaches. Now, these security issues, coupled with potential for deployment errors, can cause delays, frustrations, and put sensitive business information at risk. Now, this underscores the importance of automated, secure deployment practices to ensure both seamless and safe production releases. Now, whilst we have talked about this, let's look at likely security issues that may arise when you're deploying codes from one environment to another. And predominantly, we'll talk about when you're moving from UAT to prod. To look at the first one, which is very important, is the insecure configuration. Um, Manual deployment has high chances of it leading to misconfigured bots, which would expose sensitive data or would allow unauthorized access. The second bit is lack of segmentation. Now, if you're not having a proper network segmentation, as well as a separate environment for dev, UAT, and prod, this will allow bots to access sensitive areas, which will increase the attack surface. The third bit is inadequate logging and monitoring. Now, when a manual deployment happens, logging and monitoring may be inconsistent, and then it could lead or it could make it difficult to detect security incidents and unauthorized accesses, which could be high in rise. The next one is privilege escalation and dependency. A manual deployment may require excessive privileges, potentially leading to privilege escalation attacks. Dependencies on admin, always, or delegation of access often cannot be avoided when you're deploying bots manually. Data exposure is the next one. When you're manually handling bot codes, you're also handling sensitive data during deployment, which could lead to data exposure or leakages. Now, this will further lead to compliance risks because you're likely to violate regulatory requirements. And the important ones are GDPR, HIPAA, CSVs. And this often happens when you have inadequate controls and becomes a major problem when it's a manual deployment. Now, when you're doing a manual deployment, it often also leads to providing unclear audit trials, which would often make it difficult to track changes or identify security incidents. And finally, it would lead to human errors because when the manual deployment happens, there is a risk of human errors, and you know the list of human errors that could possibly occur. That's a big long list. Don't want to get deep diving into it. This will potentially introduce a lot of vulnerabilities and configuration mistakes. Now, in order to mitigate this risk, you should go ahead and deploy automated deployment, and DevOps is the answer. The next bit could be infrastructure as a code. And this is where continuous integration, continuous deployment, CI/CD plays an important role. You should always look at automated testing and validation of your bot codes. Ensure your configuration management for the bots is secured. Also ensure your credentials are sitting into a different sort of a control mechanism rather than only being in orchestrator. The best one would be Azure keyword, or a keyword of other cloud enterprises that you're working on, or maybe on-prem if you have anything of that sort. CyberArk could be a best one. That's my recommendation. I'm not saying you should always look at that. And have a proper network segmentation and access controls in place. And finally, ensure you're monitoring and logging all the particular activities which are important in the bot. If you're following all this, this will surely ensure a more secure and controlled environment for your bot deployment. Thank you and happy automation.